to our series on Native American authors from the Creek Nation. We were reading their public domain stories, and in our first week, we read some poems by Alexander Lawrence Posey. In our second week, we read part of Lucy's Pony by James Rowan Gregory. This week, our final week of November, I am going to read to you Wynema, the first chapter, by S. Alice Callahan. Not much is really known about S. Alice Callahan, but she is one of the earliest published novels written by a Native American woman. She was born in 1868 and died in 1894, and was of Creek descent and was born in modern-day Texas. Like I said, I'm going to be reading you the first chapter of this novel, Wynema. Remember that all three of the things that I've read for this are in the public domain. So if you can find them, they are free to read. Just remember, not all published versions of these stories are free. Try and find them online. They are free to read. Wynema, Chapter 1, Introductory. In an obscure place, miles from the nearest trading point, in a teepee, dwelt the parents of our heroine when she first saw the light. All around and around them stood the teepees of their people, and surrounding the village of tents was a great, dark, cool forest in which the bucks, spent many hours of the day hunting, fishing, in the river that flowed peacefully along in the midst of the wood. On many a quiet tramp beside her father did this little savage go, for she was the only child and the idol of her parents' hearts. When she was quite small and barely able to hold a rifle, she was taught its use and spent many happy hours hunting with her father, who occasionally allowed her to fire a shot to please her. Ah, happy, peaceable Indians. Here you may dream the happy hunting grounds beyond, little thinking of the rough white hand that will soon shatter your dream and scatter the dreams. Here is a home like unto the one of your forefathers, owned before the form of the white man came upon, sensed, and changed your quiet habitations into places of business and strife. Here are no churches and schoolhouses, for the heathen is a law unto himself, and ignorance is bliss to the savage. But the medicine man tells them of the Indians' heaven behind the great mountain, and points them to the circuitous trail over its side, which he tells them has been made by the great warriors of their tribe as they went to the happy hunting ground. 16 miles above this village of teepees stood another and larger town in which was a mission school, superintended by Gerald Keithley, a missionary sent by the Methodist Assembly to promote civilization and Christianity among these lowly people. Tall, young and fair, of quiet, gentle manners, and possessed of kindly sympathy in face and voice, he easily won the hearts of his dark companions. The mission was a small log house, built in the most primitive style. But it accommodated the small number of students who attended school for the Indians long left to follow after pleasure are loth to quit her shrine for the nobler one of education. It was hard to impress upon them, young or old, the necessity of becoming educated. If their youths handled the bow and rifle well and were able to endure the greatest hardships unmurmuringly, their education was complete. Hence, every device within the ken of an ingenious mind, calculated to amuse and attract the attention of the little savages, and to cause them to desire to remain near the schoolroom, was summoned to the aid of this teacher, born, not made. He mingled with the Indians in their sports whenever practical, and endeavored in every way to show them he had come to help and not hinder them. Nor did he confine himself to the village in which his work lay, for he felt the command, "Go ye into all the world and preach the gospel to every creature," impelling him onward. The village of teepees, Wynema's home, know him and welcome him in the abode of her father. He was an honored guest, where, with a crowd gathered about him, He told of the love and mercy of a Savior, of the home that awaits the faithful. He urged his dusky brethren to educate their children in the better ways of their pale-faced friends. At first, he talked through an interpreter, but feeling the greater influence he would gain by speaking to the Indians in their own tongue, he mastered their language and dispensed with the interpreter. But to Wynema, he always spoke the mother tongue, English. For he reasoned she is young and can readily acquire a new language, and will profit her to know the English. His was the tongue that brought into life the slumbering ambition for knowledge and a higher life in the breast of the little Indian girl. Her father and mother carried her to the mission to hear Gerald Keithley preach, and missing her when they started off the following day, they found her in the schoolroom, standing near her friend, listening eagerly and attentively to all he said, and wonderstruck at the recitations of the pupils, simple though they were. "Father," she said, "let me stay here and listen always. I want to know all this the pupils are talking about." "No, my child," answered the father. "Your mother and I could not get along without you. We can build you a school at home, and you may stay there and listen." "When, father, when?" Wynema asked eagerly. "Ask Gerald Keithley when he comes." "Oh. Ask Gerald Keithley when he comes," he answered to divert her attention from himself. Then the days became weeks to Wynema, impatiently awaiting the coming of her friend. Every day she thought with delight of her school her father would build, and every day planned it all for the benefit of her little friends and playmates, who had become anxious also from hearing Wynema's description of school life to enter Learning's Hall. When Gerald Keithley finally came, he found a small school organized under Wynema, waiting for a house and teacher. "Do you really wish to go to school so much, little girl?" he asked Wynema, only to see her cheeks flush and her eyes flash with desire. "Oh, so much," clasped her hands. "May I?" she asked. "If your father wishes," Gerald answered gladly. Father said ask you, and now you say if father wishes," she began disappointedly. "Well then, you may, for I shall send off for you a teacher right away. Now then, go tell your playmates," and he patted her cheek. "Oh, I am so glad." She looked at him, her eyes full of grateful tears, then ran gleefully away. Gerald Keithley then went to her father, stalwart Cho Harho, and asked, "Do you want a school here, and will you build a house? If so, I will send and get you a teacher." "Yes," he answered. "The child wishes it, so be it." "Would you like a man or woman for teacher?" Gerald questions. "Let it be a woman, and she may live with us. I want the child to be with her always, for she is so anxious to learn. We will do all we can for the teacher if she will live among us." "I am sure of that," answered Gerald warmly, pressing the Indian's hand. So the child rang out in the great Methodist assembly, a woman to go teach among the Indians in the territory. "Who will go?" And it will be answered by one from the sunny Southland. "A young lady, intelligent and pretty, endowed with graces of heart and head, and surrounded by the luxuries of a southern home, tenderly reared by a loving mother, for her father had long ago gone to rest, and greatly loved by her brother and sisters, of whom she was the eldest. She was physically unfit to bear the hardships of a life among the Indians, but God had endowed her with great moral courage and endurance, and she felt that the call to go too strenuously to allow any obstacles to obstruct her path. She understood the responsibilities of the steps she was about to take, but as she said to her mother, who was endeavoring to persuade her to change her resolve and pleading tearfully to keep her daughter with her, "God has called me, and I dare not refuse to do this bidding. He will take care of me among the Indians as he cares for me here, and he will take care of you while I am gone and bring me back to you again. Never fear, mother dear. Our Father takes care of his obedient, believing children, and will not allow any harm to befall them." Thus came civilization among the Teepee Indians. Once again, that was Wynema by S. Alice Callahan. Thank you so much for joining me in our Grown-Up Storytime series of Native American authors from the Creek Nation. I hope you enjoyed those 3 stories. Once again, they are all in the public domain, which means they are free to read. I hope you enjoyed them, and I am going to take a long nap until December. Once again, I'm going to take a nap on these New Times Heralds. They are not very comfortable, but they are probably the most comfortable things we can have in this library. We don't have any pillows, and let's face it, hardcover books are not super great to sleep on. So I will see you in December for another series of grown-up story times. I can't wait to see you then. Come on down to the Noonan Carnegie Library, say hi, and I will help you try and find anything in the public domain that you need help with. Have a great night. Bye, everybody. Mmm.